What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com, at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm your host, Moose, at CFB_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me, co-founder and data guru here at Occupy Fantasy. Alongside Brian, at BrianJesterFF on Twitter, co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy. How's it going, Brian?
What's happening, Moose? Welcome back to Maryland or Virginia, I guess, to the DMV, and yeah, another pretty poor week overall. But I'm pretty excited about this upcoming week. So new week, new expectations.
And the biggest part of it all is we got to change our profile pictures today because we got some ballers.
Hell yeah, yeah. I'm actually we joined the cartoon pixelated picture gang on Twitter. So yeah, another amazing step this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Got to figure out to get the $1 million mission any way we can. So this is the week 9 edition of the $1 million mission, where we take a look at Brian's previous 150 max lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel. Look at what he did. Look at what the field did. And answer your questions along the way. So take a look here at the $1 million mission. See how he did on FanDuel. If I hit the wrong button. So on FanDuel, $44,050 in entries, $805 in winnings for a minus 80% ROI. It's better than last week.
Improvement upon last week's negative 96%.
Yeah. And then on DraftKings, 5,100 in entries, 1,162 in winnings for minus 77% ROI, which is like normally what your floor is.
Yeah, a normal floor, not an historically poor floor. Yes.
A floor. And then if we take a look at how you've done year to date on both sites, a little over 67,000 in entries, a little over 50,000 in winnings for minus 25% ROI.
Yeah, that ROI jumped up pretty quickly, right? We went from plus a few percent to minus 2% to minus 16% to minus 25%. However, I will say that I am super pumped about this upcoming week. I'm feeling a spike week in my bones with some potential lock button running back, so I'm excited to get this back into black.
Yeah, as Abel says in the chat here, all it takes is one major win. You got this. So love to hear that.
Appreciate that. And he does ask a question, and for that nice comment, I'll answer your question. How do you feel about Dak this week? We're still ironing out the game stacks, but I got to say, he's not expected to face any pressure at all from Atlanta's defense. That game total's 55. Got to imagine that we feel pretty good about Dak this week.
Absolutely, yes. And if we take a look at how we did in the DraftKings pools for Pick'em, we skipped. Hey, we had to use a skip 1 week, so we figured we used a skip. We actually jumped up a few. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, we went down a couple spots to 734th place. We skipped because I was in Batavia, where I could not actually enter these. I was in a FanDuel live final. I wasn't going to drive 6 hours again just to put in some DraftKings picks.
No dedication, Moose.
Nope, no dedication.
I will say with the Pick'em. Again, now that we've used our skip and we're still in the top 40-ish%, but if we're going to make a push here, we got to start taking up some unpopular picks, and I think that's how the second half of our strategy will evolve a bit.
Yes, exactly, and that may mean not selecting the most optimal play in terms of line movement. Maybe we have to go against a minus 3.5 when the current line is minus 2.5. Just because it may not be optimal, but it may be leverage. So.
Right, because there's no better way to. I mean, it's the same thing with DFS, right? To climb the leaderboards when you pick the opposite. Like when something that is expected to happen, high ownership on a player in DFS, doesn't happen. Who benefits from that? In DFS, it's a little harder to figure out. However, in a pick'em pool, if the highest team is 40% owned on a given week, and we take their opponent. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a direct correlation. So we might be taking because we've been really good at identifying who the most popular plays will be just based on line movement and who's in the circle pool. So I think that's a good way to leapfrog if we need it.
Yeah, I mean that's taking like bad plays only to the next level, but
well, hashtag good plays only hasn't done us that well. I mean we're in the top half of a pick'em pool in a very sharp pick'em pool, so we've done pretty well so far, but we could be better.
Definitely, yeah. I'm happy with the overall progress. And if we take a look at Survivor, where it was like literally hashtag chaos season, like there's only 13% of the field is remaining, like 320 people left or something. We cruised and we picked Indianapolis on Thursday night. Thank goodness we did, because like every favorite lost.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
I'll say we've kind of glanced over this section every week, right? We give you a quick update, who we picked, how many people were left in the field, maybe one sentence about bitching about how no one ever gets out. But Moose is a little realistic now. 13% of the field left. We're halfway through the season. We've run some simulations that we got close to a 10% chance of making it through week 18 based on the picks that we've made so far. Hard to ask to be in a better spot. So I'm getting pretty excited about Survivor. I don't know about you.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely feeling that way. But again, I was telling a friend of mine who's also in the pool is that we still got halfway through the season, so it doesn't make sense in my eyes to start a sweat now. Like how in DFS you have the 4 o'clock games come, second half you start to sweat. Oh my god, I got a chance, but there's still so long to go that it doesn't make any sense to sweat. Just keep doing what you're doing and hope it works out for the best.
Still so many player minutes remaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, 13% was that's kind of crazy. And for those who have, maybe you're just tuning in or you haven't heard us talk about this before, the DraftKings Survivor Pool, it's a $300 entry, winner take all. There was 2,600 entries to start the contest. We're now halfway through the season. Obviously, only 13% remain. 300 people vying for $1 million, and we've been strategically saving some of the better teams: Buffalo, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, Titans. Like, we got some good teams in our back pocket to use, so I think we're in a good spot, Moose.
Yeah, thank goodness we were able to. We didn't have to put that few in parentheses, because the last 4 weeks we've had to win on a last quarter on a last second drive. So
I know
it was good for Indy.
Yeah, we needed an easy week for a change. Let's hope the rest of the year is easy for us too.
Definitely. Now I know I briefed over it, but I think some people might actually enjoy this. Not have the spotlight all on you, but I was in a live final over the weekend for FanDuel up in Batavia, New York. It was a pretty cool experience. I got the little name tag that I can start wearing now.
Did you get the name tag?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, nice.
Yeah, I got the name tag. And I'm not gonna lie, probably the most random shit in a goodie bag. So
what'd you get? Yeah, what'd you get? Let's hear it.
So I got the sweet bag. It just says Batavia Downs Gaming.
Oh, that's kind of sick though. Okay.
Yeah. I use it for groceries, so I don't have to pay 25 cents for a bag.
Right. Live final, but won't pay for a grocery bag. Okay.
I got a koozie that says Batavia Downs.
Nice. Okay.
I got a power bank, which you can always use those.
Oh, okay, that's nice. You definitely need that on my final days.
I got a hat that I gave to our father because it was cool. He loves
hats.
hats.
Nice.
And then the most random gift at all was a pumpkin pie plate.
What?
It's like a giant plate that has the recipe on how to make a pumpkin pie, and it's uses a plate to make a pumpkin pie with.
Is Batavia famous for pumpkin pies or something?
No, I have no idea. But they were just we have some pumpkin pie plates if you want one. I was like, sure.
Sure, throw in the goodie bag. I mean, live finals, the goodies are great, right? We know about that. And even if it's just free shit, we love free shit. So, I think it's good to get your opinion on this, Moose, because we get a lot of people asking what are live finals like. We know they're bankroll drainers in general, but just amazing experiences to go to places you really don't go to very often, watch games with the like-minded people, and have some cash on the line. Now, I know obviously, you didn't have the pressure of a world championship or a life-changing payday at stake in this live final. It was more of a niche live final, but still, it's different from your usual routine. And I would even say you have the added pressure of, because when you play DFS regularly, right, you never see the people you're playing against. You just see the screen names. You're at home, you're in a bar, whatever. It's not like poker or a real sport where you're competing and you see other people. There's a little bit of nerves in that when you go to a live final. Now you have to see other people and root for them or root against them. Yeah. So, how was that aspect for you?
It was weird. I was panic Mr. Krabs me, because I kept thinking what if my lineup somehow isn't actually entered in the contest? I refreshed it.
That's anxiety 101. Right
yeah,
there.
I refreshed it a billion times. Took screenshots to talk to FanDuel people in case it didn't happen, but whatever. The thing that kind of upset me, and I'm not just destroy an entire fan base here, but everyone that was there at the place had Buffalo jerseys on, and there was even one person there who was like, "I'd rather have the Bills win and me get last place than me actually win the contest and the Bills lose." And I wanted to be like, "You are loser-list material, and please leave." Like,
Dude, that is like a microcosm. And again, if you're a Bills fan, I'm sorry, but that's like a microcosm of a diehard fan base. And I don't even think this is a like if you're a Bills fan, you probably take pride in this, right? Like the
yeah,
Bills fans truly love the Bills,
hmm
and they will miss a parent's funeral to see a Bills game. So I'm not surprised. I'm glad you made it out there alive with all the Bills fans. What I was surprised about, because this was like again, it was a niche live final that not as many people rostered Josh Allen in that contest as I thought they would.
yeah. I thought it was crazy. It was Lamar Jackson was 40% and the most popular quarterback by far. Josh Allen, I think, was only like 20%, 15%. Yeah, it was definitely strange. I had a 2x1 stack, Baltimore and Minnesota. The winner had a 3x1 Lamar stack.
No way.
Yeah,
Go figure.
with him. So 3x1s are still good. Overall, I know you asked a question about live finals. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, it was only $1,000 for a first prize, but I found a cheap flight, cheap rental car. I thought it was an overall pretty cool experience. I got to visit Niagara Falls as well. The girlfriend was very happy. I think it's pretty like again. You said it could be potentially a bankroll drainer. If there are more niche contests like that, like if you're in Western New York, definitely go ahead and try and get those contests.
And
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of those too as the DraftKings new reward systems opens up, and they're promising more experiences for players of different tiers, and yeah, just be on the lookout for it because it is always fun. And Moose, I'm hoping to get this experience soon. You know, just getting away from the grind of the
Yeah.
football season for a little bit, or just the grind of if you're just a regular person, like the grind of work for a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely worth it. I'm glad you went up there and couldn't take it home, but glad you had a good time.
Definitely. And I will say two quick things really quick. One, it was really cool just like the competitiveness of talking to someone saying, oh, like when your player scores, yeah, that's my player. None of my players scored touchdowns, so I couldn't say that. But like the fact that you could talk to people next to you and like cheer competitively, I thought that was a really cool aspect. And then the other one was we got lost on the way to Niagara Falls and went to a completely different casino, but I ended up winning $200, so I paid for a hotel. So
Hey,
it all works out.
there you go. Silver lining. That's what's up, Moose.
Definitely. So, cool. So if you guys have questions about live final experiences, anything like that, you can go ahead and hit me up. I'm in the Occupy Fantasy Discord. I'm at CFB_Moose on Twitter. Really, really cool. As Chris points out, regional finals is a very interesting concept. And
I think it's an amazing idea. Like they should do that more often. Like every major region, right, or a major city, whatever. I think it should have it, right?
Yeah.
That would be. I mean, you get to meet like-minded people who are likely fans of your team,
Mhm.
and you get to hang out. And again, like we said, the experiences. We need more experiences, right? Back in the day, DraftKings would have those contests where you could throw out the first pitch at a game.
Yeah.
Or you would get box seats, or what? Like we need more of those because it appeals to the casual player more, and it's just like an amazing prize to win to have that experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could go on that about that for weeks. But cool. So let's jump into it here. .bet says Lock Button City. Let's go. I missed the content last week, but I'm back. Let's go. So I love to hear that. Always love to see .bets in the chat. Definitely. So if we take a look here at the Fantasy Labs contest dashboard for the, let me move to the $20 Fantasy Football Millionaire. And let's take a look at some of your exposures, Brian, because I felt like Game Stacks was very hard this week. I don't know about how you felt.
I definitely felt that way. For me, and I think the plug kind of laid this out last week, and Chris talked about it in the plug, that Minnesota and Baltimore by far was like I think the easiest stack to play next week or last week, and I, if it would have been crazy, but I thought to myself, I was like, should I just do 150 Baltimore Minnesota stacks? Probably wouldn't have got there anyway, so it doesn't matter. But so that was easy for me, easy choice at the top of all my stack rankings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Green Bay and Kansas City popped up too, but obviously we had the concern with Kansas City looks like dog shit. And Jordan Love making his first start, we're not sure how that's going to look. Obviously, the total dropped, but it was still 48 and moved up to 48.5 after Jordan Love was announced a starter. So I thought that was still pretty decent. And then we had some other games. Miami and Houston popped off, and I loved that game. And then we get the news that Tua's out at 11:30.
Yeah.
The total drops a little bit. The line moves against Miami. I didn't feel great about it, but it still wasn't enough for me, and I still probably should have moved off of it. I don't even know what I would have moved off of it to. I don't think it would have mattered in the end. I probably should have moved off that stack, right? So I played just the Miami 3-1 side of that game. Yeah. My final stack, talked about it on Saturday with Chris while you were up in Batavia Moose. I said, I'm making the leap. I'm playing some 3-0 stacks. We've seen that they can win, especially if it's a big favorite. I'm going to play some Bills 3-0 stacks. I'll probably hate myself in the morning. Immediately hated myself. They lost 9-6. So those are my stack choices this week. But again, it wasn't like I had 3 easy game stacks to pick from. I thought it was really tough.
Yeah, obviously I was rooting hard against Buffalo because my thought process was in my live final, it's literally like 10 minutes away from Buffalo. So I think a lot of people are going to pick Buffalo. But that was wrong. But I still got to root against Buffalo, which is always fun. Your other one, I want to pick your brain a little bit with Tua being out. How much of you staying on that game was just lack of time? Because I bet if Tua was ruled out on Saturday, you probably would have switched off it, I would imagine.
I probably would have changed it, and I probably would have moved to the LA side of the Philly game, I think. Mm-hmm. Again, that still wouldn't have panned out that well, but I think I would have done that. And then it was a time thing because I saw the total drop. I saw the line move against them, and I was like, okay, this is bad news. I should get off this game. And then I talked myself into it. I was like, wow, Jacoby's even cheaper than Tua was. And we still have, like, the part that appealed to me in that game was, one, they're playing the garbage Texans, and 2, very concentrated passing tree with Gesicki and Jalen Waddle and even Myles Gaskin. And I was like, well, that aspect still stands, and I get it a little bit cheaper, so I'm going to stick with it. I probably would have moved off of it. And again, that's, it's tough to change 300 lineups completely with 90 minutes left. But again, very rarely do we get that kind of situation where we have just like slate altering news.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Couple questions here. DotBet says, Love at 4,400 was too good to pass up. Unfortunately, majority of the studs in those lineups didn't do well either. Yeah, it seemed like everyone just did poorly across the board.
I mean, that game was 13-7 or whatever, right? So, I mean, that's not going to win no matter how. Jordan Love could have been $200. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. And then Johnny says, do you set exposure limits in your 150 sets, or do you just adjust as you build lineups over and over?
Yes, to both. I do set exposure limits. I want a minimum number of a certain amount of underperforming wide receivers, now chalk receivers. I want a certain amount of tight ends, certain amount of running backs. So yes, but again, like my iterative process ends up being pressing that build lineups button like hundreds of times. So it is a process, and the answer to that question is yes and yes.
Yeah. Let's see here. So if we take a look at your exposures here, looks like the player you had the most leverage was, of course, for the Bills, Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, Daryl Williams, Myles Gaskin, Javonte Williams. A lot of running backs. What was your thought process about running backs this week?
So we're on this chalk wide receiver tip and trying to play more expensive wide receivers. This past week it was Stephon Diggs. It was Tyreek Hill. Obviously neither one did great, which means playing cheaper running backs. Zach Moss, more work recently, 14-point favorite, got hurt in the first half. Chase Edmonds, rumors he could get some more passing game work, even operate as a wide receiver with DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green out. He gets hurt on his very first touch of the game. Cool. That's 50% of the lineups down the drain. And then Daryl Williams, Myles Gaskin in great spots as favorites in pretty decent roles, pass catching and goal line work. Did okay, but really it was trying to get more exposure to cheaper running backs. I literally X'd out Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb at like 11:30 or 12.
Yeah.
And they were two of the highest scoring running backs on the slate, so that was just a fantastic decision.
Yeah, and back with my live final, Chubb was 50% owned, so when he scored 4 billion points, I was like, I know I'm not winning this. But I never, like, my thought process, he didn't pop up in the model very, very highly. he just seemed like he overperformed every attempt he got. He was just someone that never really showed up on my radar. I don't know if he showed up on your radar at all, Brian.
Well, to me, so it's like he like you said, he didn't rate that high in the model because he doesn't have any passing game work, and that can go wrong so quickly for a player like him. And yeah, so when I kept seeing his ownership at like 25%, and I was like, what am I missing? Why is he so highly owned? I was like, he's so over-owned compared to his likely touch count. And our writer Bismo, he's big in the data stuff, and he was like, Chubb's one of the best at rushing yards over expectation. Very good chance in this game that he rushes over expectation again. But if you told me he gets 16 touches, I'm like, yes, I'm fading him at 25% for sure. And the way I was building and his price, I kept getting like 8%. And I was like, what's the point? I'd rather just get everything else perfect and fade him and Mixon if I'm going to play them at like half their ownership or even less. So I faded them. Didn't work out. Would I do it again? Yes, absolutely. If he's going to get 170 yards on 16 touches or whatever. So
yeah. Ed says, "Hey fellas, a little late. Did we talk about Buffalo? We did, but if you have any other questions about them, I think he's talking about my live final. If we're talking about the team, but yeah, if you have any questions, just go. We'll reiterate it for you." Dot Bez says, "I changed a ton of my builds from Chubb to Edmonds. Womp. That's not good." Yeah. So let's take a look at your wide receivers that you had leverage on. MVS, Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith, Rashad Bateman, DJ Moore were the receivers that you had 10% or more leverage on. Which seemed, again, Rashad Bateman did okay at 4K, but so your thought process, you're playing a lot more chalk wide receivers, and if we look at what the field did at some of these over 20%, you still had negative leverage on. So is your thought process of trying to be around the field, maybe a little bit less, or were you trying to gain leverage on the field for these? Oh no, he left. Let's see if Brian is back. Give me 1 second here. All right, let's see if we can hold on for Brian. I think I hear him. Give it a couple more seconds. Here. All right, let's see. Give us 1 second, guys. We'll be right back. All right, sorry about that, guys. We are back. Brian or I had problems, so but we're back. Cool. So, Brian, a question I asked you before we decided to fade into Bolivian, as Chris said. The chalk wide receivers here, I sorted by the field percentage, and yet you were still under leveraged on a majority of them. Was that your plan going in, just to play some of them, or were you trying to actually gain leverage and they were just more popular than you projected?
Yeah, definitely more popular in Marquise Brown's scenario. I didn't expect him to get up to 28% or whatever the hell he was. As far as Tyreek and Diggs were the guys that I thought were like stud wide receiver plays that were in that Cooper Kupp category, right? Mm-hmm. Cooks, Renfro mostly. Renfro, Amari Cooper, Landry were guys that were just too cheap for their roles, and I wanted to get at least half the exposure, because I wasn't as high on them really. So I wanted to get at least half, and I think I accomplished that by getting close or over on Diggs and Hill, and I did do that, which was, and I guess Marquise Brown, but he was an underperforming wide receiver, and I still couldn't even match the field on him. Yeah. But I think overall I did what I wanted to do.
That's good. Yeah, and because, again, the way your lineups are with 3-0, 3x1 game stacking, even if you are a little bit less on leverage, as long as they don't do the crazy, like, sometimes 60-point Tyreek Hill games, where he's going to be on an island, I think you're fine. I think that's okay what you did.
Right. This week was especially tough because there was a bunch of running backs I actually did like for a change at the higher end. This upcoming week with some potential lock button running backs, I think we have a really good chance for really nice lineup constructions that are easy to make. This week was not easy to make lineups, so and I think that was kind of reflected in my exposures.
Yeah, exactly. So, cool. So we're here for 30 more, not 30 more minutes, but until 10:30. So if you have questions, definitely go ahead and ask. Brian, I want to take a look at the leaderboard here because there was definitely some wild entries here.
Maybe the grossest lineups we've ever seen win a DFS contest. Like collective, we've seen some bad like single bullets win lineups. It was bad. I mean, what was it like? Hold on, I'm looking here. It was like 9 of the top 10 lineups had a single bullet or something like that. Go back to the
Oh yeah. I think it's actually going to crash on me if I click the exposures. Yeah, it did.
Okay. Well,
let's see. Let me go back to it. Let me refresh.
Sick tech issues today.
Hey, at least this one isn't ours.
It's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So let's see.
I think we just talk about because we get this a lot as you wait for this to load.
Yeah. So it's like 6 of this. Yeah. So single entry, 2 entries, 150, 2, 1, 1, 94, 3.
I mean, that's how you know it's bad, right? I mean, and then on FanDuel, like nobody had badges or even profile pictures in the top 10, right? It was hilariously bad. And again, this is going to happen a few times a year where like not even 3x1 stacks are missing. I'm just mean like this is just like the worst lineup possible. And we're going to see this 1 to 2 times a year. Again, you can't really draw any conclusions from it. As we talk about here, we talk about base rates. We talk about what the field does. Just by pure variance and the volume of people playing these contests, we're going to see some weeks where absolute garbage wins the million. Let's look at the leaderboard.
Yep. So R. Bradley, 23, $1 million winner. So shout out to him. Yeah, was that a 2-0 stack with Herbert and Keenan Allen, Nick Chubb, Zach Moss, who had Snowflake with 4 points.
Won the million with a 4-point player, right? It goes to show you that it's about what those cheap guys can do for the rest of your line, not necessarily what they do themselves.
Yeah, had a Waddle Gesicki stack, which is crazy.
The old 2-0 secondary stack.
Yeah. Cleveland defense. Yeah, just a wild like conglomerate of plays.
And James Conner at 2% who scored 40.
Yeah. If we take a look at who finished second, had Nate? God damn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Had a 1-1 stack with Lamar and Conklin.
And a 2-0 secondary Cardinal stack.
Yeah. That's
the old wide receiver defense pairing. I mean, just like pure trash. What's the next guy's lineup?
Yeah. It's funny. Real quick, I would say I actually had Lamar. Granted, I had 2-1, but I also had Conklin, and so it makes me feel somewhat good. I was like, dude, if Conklin does anything, I'm bringing it.
Yeah, he had like 5 for 50, right? He didn't kill your lineup, but it wasn't enough to win a contest, right?
Yeah. All right, so the person finished in third, Mancho 21. What did he have? He had this is a 2x1 stack with Herbert, Allen, and Devonta Smith. Okay,
not bad.
Yeah.
This actually isn't a bad lineup. Okay, this is more of a normal lineup than anything else.
Yeah. Yep.
The 150 maxer who finished in the top 10. What does their lineup look like? And I just want to see what their exposures were.
All right, let's see if I can figure out who the 150 maxer is. We're gonna have to.
I think it was the dude in 5th. I think.
Dog you. So let's go back to the leaderboard real quick. Let's see where he finished. dogged you. So he finished in 5th. His lineup was a 2x1. Looks like.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
not bad.
Had
Cheap running backs.
Yeah, Cordero Patterson had a 0.8% David Njoku.
That's weird. That's weird. Why? That's weird. Okay, let's see their exposures. Quarterbacks, running backs, what they did.
Yep.
Because I mean, if you 150 max and beat all this garbage, I don't know if you got lucky or had a clear strategy, but pretty amazing.
So in terms of leverage, super high. His most leveraged players: Emmanuel Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Justin Jefferson, Cordero Patterson, Mike Williams, Adam Thielen. Let's look at his quarterbacks.
Just one of which was in his winning lineup.
Yep.
Used them quarterbacks.
Pretty sure used every quarterback. I'm actually not lying.
Just one of the old Laz gets fit theory. Played everybody.
Yeah.
Who's his most exposed quarterback?
Let's see.
I mean, he played 7% Trevor Siemian, for Christ's sakes.
Like everything was between a lot, but Daniel Jones was his most exposed quarterback. Herbert was in 6%.
Wild.
He had 112 players in his player pool, which is on the higher side.
It's like every fucking player in the player pool. Yeah, that's definitely on the high side for sure.
Yeah.
Congrats to Dog You.
Yeah.
Very condescendingly.
No, I mean, hey, shout out. You gotta. Anytime you get a positive ROI, 150 maxing, hey, I gotta give you the applause.
The winning lineup wasn't that bad, honestly. His exposure is a different story.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the reports here really quick. Flex usage, we talked about how it's so funny. We talked about more wide receivers in your flex, and then like literally this time,
the highest scoring players on the slate were Chubb and Connor,
yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Still, 20% of the people were putting in tight ends in their flex spot, which is just baffling to me.
What is like 20% is an outrageous number.
Yeah.
Absolutely outrageous number.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just wanted to see. Well, it broke. I was going to see why are people playing tight ends? And like, which tight ends are they playing in flex?
So like Albert O was popular this week, and he was 2,500. So I think a lot of people, I don't know, just thought that was cool to play 2 tight ends because of the value he gave you. So
yeah, I mean, Alberto, Goddard, Conklin, it's a lot more popular than I thought. Gesicki, Waller.
Plus we had 3 or 4 stud tight ends, maybe 4 if you include Pitts. Mm-hmm. Anytime Kelsey and Andrews and Waller are on the slate, I think people are more likely to do it, especially with the value tight end. So I imagine people played like Kelsey plus Alberto or Andrews plus Alberto or something. So either way, still absolutely terrible to do.
Yeah, I mean, even in the 4-4-4, 22% had a tight end in their flex spot.
I mean, just what are you doing? Like, just you're paying $4,000 and just lighting on fire.
Yeah, I actually want to see what the 4-4-4 winning lineup is. While that's loading, Dotbet says, I feel like this year has been some difficult weeks to pick. 1, a game stack, and 2, pinpoint running backs. Any thoughts on why?
Yeah, I'll work backwards here. Pinpointing running backs, kind of we talked about the last couple of episodes that the NFL is moving away and has pretty successfully moved away from workhorse running backs for the most part. Teams are passing more than ever before. So as a result, we don't get as many smash play running backs. Just all the volumes in the passing game. And if a running back does get work, a lot of times he's splitting it with someone else. So that's obviously why that makes it tough. Game stacks, yeah, I don't know what that's about. I think it feels like there are worse teams.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that part out too, because I agree with you. At least the last 3 weeks have been incredibly tough to pick game stacks. I think that'll change this week though. I think it's a pretty clear tier of top stacks for week 10. So maybe the second half of the year, it's all downhill from here.
Yeah. Real quick, I was looking at the 4-4-4-4 tournament. The winner here actually had a pretty solid lineup. Like, that's a solid lineup there.
Yeah, that's real solid. So the old 2x1 with 2 underperforming wide receivers, cheap running backs.
Pair the defense with the running back. Or
chalk receiver and Hunter Renfrow, the punt tight end. Yeah, really solid lineup.
Yep.
Congrats to
Vasa.
Whoever this is. Vasa. Congrats.
Yep. And it won it by 20 points.
Yeah, I can't imagine winning them only by 20 points.
That'd be pretty
Just
sick.
like no sweat whatsoever.
Yeah. And then last question before we get about here from .bets. Do you open up your wide receiver player pool or shrink it in that case?
Yeah, this is something I struggle with. I think you should probably shrink it. But there's merit to opening it up, right? Because it's the way I look at it is, if you can't really find anyone you truly like, right? There was a couple weeks ago, Eli Mitchell stood out and Michael Carter stood out. Probably should have condensed it and just played those dudes super heavy. This week, I think we can do it a little bit more with some of these guys we're going to be looking at. But like last week, none of the cheaper guys really liked Gaskin. I liked some of those other guys, Zach Moss or whatever, but I didn't like love them. So let's just give them all like 20% and hope I get the right combo. I think it depends on the week, depends on the value that's presented. When in doubt, though, you should be playing less players. Like if you're looking at a tiebreaker, playing less players is always a good thing in any exposure scenario.
Makes sense to me. Cool. And then last question here from Johnny says, when reviewing these high entry fee contests, it really feels as though you don't need these wild low-owned one-offs to take them down, like you do have the Moss and Fields. Do you enter any of those, Brian?
No, I personally don't, and I think that's why, right? Like all my strategy comes into to being able to predict those lower owned plays, and the value is not really there in these smaller contests. Plus, the $4,000 entry fee, so it makes it really tough.
Yeah. Cool. So, any last thoughts or anything else before I take us out of here, Brian?
I think the video is frozen, but I'm not 100% sure if you could check.
No, it says we're good.
Okay. It might be on my end. No, I think, again, week 9, another learning experience. You're losing and you're not learning. It's a bad experience, but always be learning. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to week 10.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to making a pumpkin pie. FanDuel.
Yeah, dude, take that recipe to heart and go make that pumpkin pie.
Definitely will do. So, until next time, Moose and Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Have a good night.